Welcome, folks, back to the channel. And today, folks, we need to talk. We need to have a conversation. Met fans, let's discuss the Mets because I think we're coming to a crossroads now. We are coming to a crossroads. Steve Cohen has owned the team for a handful of years now. I believe we're going into year 5 of the Steve Cohen ownership. Yeah, year 4, year 5. I believe it's year 5. So Steve Cohen's owned this team for quite a few years. David Stearns is in his second year. I want to repeat that. He is in his second year. Second year hasn't really begun playing wise, but the offseason sure has begun. And has it begun the way I wanted to? Yes and no. Yes and no. So we're going to ask each other questions this video. So I'm going to need your help as always. But let's start off the video right. Smash that like button. If you are a brand new viewer, please consider subscribing. If you've come back to the channel numerous times, please subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and we are trying to grow the channel. For all my subscribers who support the channel, as always, share the video. We are trying to blow this channel up, grow it in an immense way. So please continue to help support this channel. Thank you in advance. All right. So, 3 game-changing moves I have as our topic number 1. And I'll tell you this, going into the offseason, here were my 3 moves. My 3 moves that I wanted the Mets to make. I wanted the Mets to be aggressive, and I thought this would put the Mets on the map. And if I had 3 moves to make that the Mets could do without question, these would be the moves. Number 1, sign Soto. Check mark. We signed Soto. Number 2, you had to make that Crochet trade work. Even though Crochet, he doesn't have an extensive history of pitching as a starting pitcher. He was an elite. He is an elite starting pitcher, and I would have loved to put him at the top of the rotation. Would have loved to trade for Crochet. All right, that would have been my second move. And my third wish list move would be to obviously sign the Japanese sensation, Roki Sasaki. Those were my moves. If I could do any moves, what would have been your moves? Now let's fast forward. Obviously, a lot of the offseason has, went underway. Teams have made their moves. The Dodgers, without a doubt, have been the most aggressive team by far, kicking up dust in the face of all the other teams, especially our New York Mets. The New York Mets in the NLCS played the Dodgers close. I mean, we were 2 games shy of advancing to the World Series, but it was a tough matchup. The Dodgers were ripe to score 10 runs a game against us. I think they averaged a little over 8 runs a game. And, our pitching wasn't at that elite level. So you fast forward, did we really improve our pitching? Really? I mean, we got Montas, we got Clay Holmes. I do like that pickup. I think that has some potential, but I would have liked more front end potential right now. We signed Manaya, so you kind of stay status quo with that move, and then you add a Sanga in. I mean, we don't add him, but you kind of add him to the rotation because he wasn't there last year. But how much can you rely on him? How much could you rely on him? So I asked a question last video. Can we trust Stearns? Or I said trust in Stearns. I didn't ask the question. We're going to ask the question today because I had some interesting feedback. My theory to kind of trust in Stearns was first year goes to the exceed expectation, goes to 2 games short of the World Series. Okay, it takes time to build a team. Really, it takes time. The Dodgers, whether you want to praise them or hate them, they've been building this thing for years. Years. They didn't just start building last year. They started preparing for the Ohtani potential pursuit for a long time. They started building this core for a long time. The Mets, I would say, have been a dumpster fire until the end of 2023. Do we remember what happened in 2023? Where literally we sold off of free agents that we just got 2 months prior, and we just started rebuilding in the middle of 2023. And then we just had a horrific year when expectations were through the roof. 2022, we won 101 games. We were supposed to build on that, but we took a very deep dive. Why? Because we didn't do things right in 2022. Instead of building it right, we went all in. Any free agents that were available, Scherzer, Verlander, 40 million, 40 million, and other moves that we shouldn't have made. We made, obviously it caused a financial hell in 2023 and 2024, but luckily David Stearns was able to turn the corner quite quickly. And, on the books right now, we have contracts like Nimmo. If Stearns was around, I don't think we would have that contract. Lindor, I think, that's a contract that, you make that exception for that, two-way versatile premier position player. But, Stearns is in a unique position. And we're going to ask the question, pretty soon, should we trust in Stearns? But, again, going back to the 3 game-changing moves, those moves obviously didn't come to fruition. The Crochet, Sasaki, and Soto did. So I guess one for three, and it was a heck of a move. I can't take that away from the team, but again, that is more of a Steve Cohen move. I think Steve Cohen was the emphasis and the closer in that move. So I give Steve Cohen all the credit in the world. But my 3 game-changing moves right now, and this is what I'm gonna flip it over to you. What are the 3 moves you would make right now? I know there are a lot of people right now extremely frustrated with Stearns. Here's your chance. Put your GM/president hats on. What are the 3 moves you would make right now? Right now. Forget about the money. 3 moves. It could be a trade. It could be, a signings. What are the 3 moves you would make? David Stearns is being small ball. I keep hearing that concern, and there are concerns, and I'm going to bring those up shortly as well. But I'm trying to look at this 2 sides. I'm not trying to take a side right now. I'm trying to evaluate all sides because I'm a Mets fan right now. I fully admit I'm a Mets fan. And that's. It's not easy sometimes. It is not easy. So I understand where a lot of us, the emotions coming from. I certainly do. Okay, so all right, I'm going to tell you my 3 moves right now. Right now, my 3 moves. My number 1 move, I would say, you got to go out and put a package together for Guerrero. Even if you got to overpay, Guerrero is one of those rare players. But the thing that entices me so much about Guerrero is pairing him in the lineup with the likes of Lindor and Soto. You need that type of special lineup. That's what the Dodgers have. The Dodgers have a gauntlet with Freeman, Betts, Ohtani, Hernandez. I love to create that with the New York Mets. Not to mention we have Vientos, Alvarez. I think he's still a growing player. I would love to build a package around or for Guerrero. I know it depends on Toronto trading, but you know what? These are hypothetical situations. And my first thing that I would say go out and do is get Guerrero. Money doesn't matter. Number 2, we drastically need to improve pitching. Now, I said put a package together for Guerrero. I think you could put a package together and, get a Guerrero. But pitching right now seems to be very kind of, fickle. There's not a lot of, good pitching options available, that I see. That's why I really wanted to Crochet, but it seems like we didn't have that package. So, right now, what do I see on the market? As of this recording, and I hope he didn't sign, in the last couple hours, but I would go after a guy like Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty is a guy with a lot of upside. He's a guy with a lot of untapped potential, and I really like what I saw from him. I think that he could be a great addition to the rotation. He's better than the likes of Montas, no, hands down, better than McGill. I think you can argue that he's better than Peterson. So he's a guy, a good solid number 2, number 3, probably more of a number 3. And he would add more, eat up innings. And, he's a guy that I love to put in the pitching lab and see what type of pitcher comes out on the other side. So Jack Flaherty, that's a move that I would make. And the last move I would do is get a guy like Alex Bregman. Like Guerrero, Alex Bregman, we are trying to create a philosophy in our lineup, especially if you're going to go up against teams like the Dodgers, teams with great pitching. You want to work the pitchers, guys who work the counts. Bregman, Guerrero, they work the count. They are patient hitters. They are good hitters. They, a guy in the case of Bregman, he is a champion. I love his attitude. Guy wants to win. He wants to win at all costs, and it doesn't matter how much. So you're going to significantly upgrade your lineup with Bregman and Guerrero and Flaherty. You're not going to pay through the roof on another very reliable arm. You put him in the rotation. Those would be the three moves that I make right now. And all those three moves, they're feasible. It's not like I'm saying, go trade for, Tariq Skubal right now, although he was available at the deadline last year. But, these moves I think are all within the realm. They're all within the realm. It's not like, get a Sasaki. Well, Sasaki doesn't want to come here. These are moves if David Stearns really wants to get aggressive. And, I think to a certain extent, even though it does take time, he should get aggressive. Okay, so now let's proceed to our second part of the video. And this is going to be probably, a very interesting part. Should we trust Stearns, right? Okay, if you haven't got a chance to like the video or subscribe, now is your chance. If you're a passionate Major League Baseball fan, you know what? This sounds like it could be a fun channel for you. All right, so should we trust in Stearns? Well, the thing is, a lot of times we say that past performance is a good predictor for future success, right? So we can look at it in a couple different ways. David Stearns, is he a guy who has built winning teams? Yes. Is he a guy that has had a lot of resources in the past? I would say no. Last year was the first time that he had a lot of resources. But if you really think of it, a third of his payroll, almost a third of his payroll was dead money. This is the first year where majority, almost 100% of the payroll will be allocated to active players. That is pretty significant. We're not going to be paying Verlander, Scherzer, McCann to be playing elsewhere. Cano in the past. So we finally cleaned up that dead money. So we're going to get to see a year or year two. This is going to be the first year of Stearns operating with no dead money, right? But again, going back to the past of Stearns. And the thing that I did kind of research is I researched the pitching. And I wanted to see, Stearns is the pitching guru, the pitching lab. And, how did Milwaukee Brewers pitchers rank? How did they rank? How did the pitching staff rank? And, like most years, the pitching staff was, top third, not top five, not top 10, but, I would say close to the top third, maybe to the middle half of the MLB. But, again, there were a lack of resources there. But, didn't blow me away. Which leads me to believe, it causes me to ask questions. If Stearns had more resources, would he be more aggressive? Or would he do what he's kind of doing right now? Would he lay back in the weeds saying, I'm going to play hardball with every single free agent, and no matter what they want, I'm going to put my value. If I value it 70 million and you want 75, I'm walking away. I think that we're seeing Stearns be a little bit stubborn. I mean, Teoscar Hernandez, before the floodgates opened, before Sasaki went to the Dodgers, before Yates went to the Dodgers, before Tanner Scott went to the Dodgers, we had an opportunity a couple months ago to stymie the momentum of the Dodgers, and that would have been by getting a Teoscar Hernandez. And Teoscar Hernandez, I mean, I'm not gonna gloss over that move, because the Mets were interested in a couple guys, Teoscar Hernandez being one of them. Teoscar Hernandez bringing a lot of different, different things to the table, which I like. He's a leader on and off the field. He's a dynamic bat in the middle of that lineup. Extra protection for Juan Soto that would have took less pressure on the organization from getting an extra hitter. Although I still would have wanted us to get an extra bat. But now that gave all the momentum in the world to the Dodgers. Then they would go on to obviously sign the players that I said they signed: Kirby Yates, Blake Trinan, Sasaki, Tanner Scott. So, that was, I think, a key pivotal, blunder this season. Also, another blunder was giving Frankie Montas $17 million. I said have confidence in David Stearns, but that doesn't mean he makes every move, the right move. Giving $17 million, I'm like, as soon as I hear that, I'm like, oh my God, I would rather give that money to a guy like Tanner Scott. I mean, money allocation, that is stuff, that is something, if you want to give Montez, under a $10 million contract, okay, I could see value there. But $17 million for Frankie Montez, a potential number 5 starter, I never liked that move. I never liked that move. So again, should we trust in Stearns? Is Stearns one of those GMs / presidents who's very good, who could build a winning team, but in terms of passing the finish line, I don't know. I think that question is still yet to be answered. But it's starting the beginning of year 2, I don't think is the right time to say, he's done, right? We have to give these young GMs the ability to adapt. If he doesn't adapt, you got to adapt to survive. If he doesn't adapt, I'm gonna be all over him. And just in case in my opinion, he has already made a couple mistakes. Jock Peterson, that was another guy that you potentially identified. Here's the thing: when the Dodgers make pinpoint assessments of the market. They identify Blake Snell, targeted approach, pay the man, because that's how they identify them getting better. The problem with David Stearns is he identifies one guy, values him, okay, that not good enough. Then he identifies another guy, okay, values the guy. The guy said, okay, I want more money. Then he identifies another guy. No, then your conviction means nothing. Your conviction means nothing. The players are interchangeable. Then you're saying your first choice is just as good as your 5th choice? That's silly. That's silly. If you value everybody the same, and if you don't value everybody the same, and you are truly building a championship team, then you do truly have to get a bit more aggressive. And maybe David Stearns hasn't come to that realization where he needs to put pedal to the metal, but I'm pretty sure his front office and other people around him, there are good baseball execs in that Mets front office. They need to be saying, hey, what are we doing here, David? If you identify Teoscar saying he's the difference maker, then why all of a sudden is $5 million the difference in signing the guy in an organization like the New York Mets where money is our biggest weapon? It makes no damn sense. And, that's the frustrating part. At the end of the day, I try to sit back and I try to say, okay, you know what? Let's look at big picture. Big picture. And that's why I made a video the other day to get your opinion about being patient. Being patient. And again, it's always going to come back to the question, should we trust Stearns? And I said, trust in Stearns. But if you really think about that question, if the goal is to win a World Series, Stearns has never won a World Series. And again, the biggest thing was, well, he never had the money and the resources. Well, folks, he's had the money and the resources these last 2 years. And besides signing Soto, which was a Steve Cohen move, what has he done extra special? What has he done well that made you say, oh my God, what a genius. Look what he did. Look how he took advantage of his money and his resources. I have not seen. Please list it down in the comment section. What are the moves that David Stearns has made in over a year that were big wow moves that you're like, wow, he's really taking advantage of being a big market team? Because I do not think, unlike the Dodgers, who are taking advantage of their money and resources, David Stearns has yet to do so. So, I'm going to say right now, I'm going to continue to give Stearns the benefit of the doubt because it's still early in the grand scheme of things. It is still early. Year one was complete after the World Series. Year two began after the World Series ended. So that was November. So we're in year two, and November's 1 month, December's 2, January 3. So we're in year two, but only in the third month. So it technically Stearns has been president for going on 16 months. So he's still pretty new. Now, Dodgers versus Mets. And that has been the big chatter, the big talk in the last couple of days. And, it's been really, irking Met fans. Why can't we be aggressive like the Dodgers? Why? Well, even if Stearns, had the philosophy of the Dodgers, it still wouldn't. In most cases, it still wouldn't work. And I'll give you a case in point. Yamamoto. Mets wanted Yamamoto, but Yamamoto wanted the Dodgers. Sasaki. Mets wanted Sasaki. Sasaki wanted the Dodgers. Hernandez. The Mets wanted Hernandez. Hernandez went to the Dodgers. Now, in the case of Yamamoto and Hernandez, could the Mets have been more aggressive? Paid more money? Yes. But then we have to argue on the Dodgers case. Well, then the Dodgers could have upped their offer. So, just on the flat surface, yeah, we see that the Dodgers have that advantage, that LeBron James effect where players will want to go there. Ohtani, the Mets did their homework, do back channels. They were interested in Ohtani, but they heard there was no way Ohtani was coming to the Mets. Now, if I trace it back to what was the major turning point between the Dodgers being good and the Dodgers being historically good, I'm gonna continue to trace it back to their acquisition of Ohtani, and that's why if you go back to my Ohtani videos, and everybody said I was delusional, but I said it was so damn important for the Mets to overpay. I knew it was going to have to be a significant overpay because Ohtani didn't want to go to the Mets, and even if the Mets significantly overpaid, it still might have not worked considering money wasn't the biggest, decider in the Ohtani sweepstakes, but it doesn't hurt to try if you throw a couple $100 million at the guy extra. Now, the Mets would have reaped the benefit in several different ways. The Dodgers supposedly make $100 million a year just on, the marketing of Ohtani. $100 million a year just on the marketing of Ohtani. That's not, to mention that they won the World Series. That's not to mention that they're getting other players to take discounted deals to go to the team. That's not to mention all the other branding benefits that they got from Ohtani. So that's the turning point. Honestly, I was very frustrated when Ohtani signed. Again, you can go check out that video. But the Dodgers have been building for quite some time now. And if you trace back to the New York Mets under the ownership of not David Stearns, of Steve Cohen, we were only correctly being built as of last year when Stearns ran this team. Billy Epler, 2023 debacle, we were running this team into the ground and not allocating money in the right way. So in terms of Mets being run correctly for 1 year, Dodgers being run correctly for almost 14 years. And really good in the last 5 or 6 years. And if you're fair, Mookie Betts, if Mookie Betts was a free agent, you think Steve Cohen and David Stearns would go after him? I would have to think so. If they're going after Lindor, if they're going after Soto, those are the type of players they have identified that they will go after. So I have to agree they would go after them. And I've already said that they've went after Sasaki, they've went after Yamamoto, and they went after Hernandez, and they went after Ohtani to an extent. So, you can't tell me the Mets aren't identifying the right guys. They are, but they're just not realizing that the value they place on these guys is different from the Mets' value. The Mets have to say to themselves, we have to significantly overpay these guys if they're going to choose us over the Dodgers. Plain and simple. This is why they gave Soto $765. The Dodgers I think Dodgers offer was $100 million less. I mean, or else who knows what Soto would have done? Who knows? But in that predicament, the Mets played it right. They paid Soto, and the same people who are arguing Stearns is not aggressive enough are the same people who hate the Soto contract, which is boggling my mind. Boggling my mind. Pick a side, but some people like to hate everything. But what I'm saying about Dodgers versus Mets, at the end of the day, Dodgers have been building this for such a long period of time. And sometimes you just have to give an organization credit for realizing how to do things and for doing it right. Now, if Stearns has this organization for 5 years in 2028, 2029, and we haven't won a World Series, then, there are major issues. I mean, we just made a couple big international draft signings, one of the biggest ones the other day. But Stearns has been doing a great job making these signings, making these selections. So you got to see how those pan out. Then you got to see how our current farmhand, our prospects. How does he decide to cultivate these guys, and how does he decide which guys that he should trade, and which trades does he actually make? Because I think there are moves to come. There are certainly moves to come, folks. And again, that brings me to my next point about Stearns. The offseason is far from over. The offseason is far from over. Now, again, trusting Stearns, I never really answer that question because it's an unfinished question. We don't really have enough time to make a legit, really definitive argument. I mean, if you want to go back to the Brewers, like I said, he hasn't won a World Series. This is the first time he's had resources and money. So I would say, after this year, I could probably make, a definitive argument, either yes or no, if we should trust the guy. Yes or no, if we can trust the guy. Because also, too, every guy deserves to make a mistake, to make a blunder. Um, okay, now let's get to our last topic. Mets not wanting Alonso. Now, I heard the latest news with Alonso is from the Mets camp. They are saying, or putting it out there, that they will be perfectly happy to proceed into the season without adding the polar bear. They don't mind putting Mark Vientos at first base, Brett Beatty at third, or Mauricio at third. They are perfectly fine with that. Other players, other MLB insiders are saying bull. They don't believe that. I'm one. I still think they need great potential upgrade on the offensive side, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm just getting the inclination. The Mets really, really don't want the polar bear. Will they take him? Yeah, at a major discounted price, but they are giving no sign that they want the guy. So how does that make Pete feel? Pete's got to, I mean, like, you got to really feel for Pete. Like, besides the Mets and everybody, like, no MLB team has made this guy feel wanted. I mean, that is what free agency is all about. That's what these guys love. They love to go from team to team and team and team and have every organization, bow down to these guys, kissing them behind, saying, we love you, we want you, we're going to pay you millions and millions and millions. Unfortunately, Pete, he has a couple decent offers, 3 years, $70 million for the Mets. That's nothing to sneeze at, but it's well short of what him and Scott Boras desired and were expecting. So, but I just have to keep harking back to how the Mets are acting. Yes, they'll take him, but do they truly want him? I don't know. It just doesn't seem so. But then, if you think about Teoscar Hernandez and other players, it just seems like this is how David Stearns plays ball. If you don't take my number, even if he identifies you as the number one player out there, he'll walk away. That is his philosophy, and that is why I think Steve Cohen had to run the Soto sweepstakes, because the Soto sweepstakes, Steve Cohen had to constantly raise that price. That's not how David Stearns works. He'll say he probably would have stopped it at $400 million. Oh, that's all you're worth, $400 million. We're going to call it a day. I mean, he would have fell almost $400 million short in the negotiations. So, I mean, I do think at the end of the day, David Stearns will have to adapt. Because, I got from my last video, some of us will be patient, but a majority of New Yorkers will not be patient. And I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. And 2 years we won the championship in 86 and 69, but from 1962, over 60 years, 63, 64 years of the Mets being in existence, only two championships, and we've been to the playoffs a handful of times, not nearly enough as this team should have been, being from New York and being in a big market. So I mean, the best I could say is going forward, the Mets have to be very, very flexible with their philosophy. You can't just have a very hard line stance with every player, every situation. Case in point with Soto, if you had that hard line stance, you would have never gotten Juan Soto. And, going forward right now, if you see the Dodgers being ultra aggressive and they have the upper hand, because players want to go there because that seems like the easy place to go to win a championship. You might have to overpay. And at the end of the day, your weapon is money. Your weapon is money. Use your number one weapon. So, I mean, that's what I got for you today, folks. I'm going to continue to say thank you all for the comments, the feedback. If you disagree, great. I appreciate that as well. And if you would like to join our channel memberships, that again helps our channel grow. So please check that out. And if you like to follow the channel on X, we're new over there. So follow us on X at Dominant Mets. And this is our third episode. Again, like and subscribe, and I will speak to everybody very, very soon. Have a great night, folks.